Hi, I'm David Byro at the McPhail Center for Music, and when you're preparing the snare drum etude for set 2 for Allstate, there are a few things to keep in mind. The first is the eighth note pulse is the main unit rhythmically for the entire etude. It jumps between 5/8 and 3/4 and 7/8 and whatever else, but really the eighth note is the main pulse. So in order to accomplish that feeling of that pulse, what you should do is put your metronome on twice as fast. So if the tempo is 108, that's the quarter note. Set your metronome to 216. It'll be clicking back all of the eighth notes at 216. And of course, start at a slower tempo and work your way up. By getting that eighth note pulse from your metronome is a good practice technique. The other thing to do to get a really strong rhythmic drive through this piece is to use right hand lead. So that's when you put your right hand on all the major beats. In this case, the eighth notes, and then you drop in your left hand for any 16th notes and of course the rolls. That'll give you a really strong sense of pulse, but make sure to listen to both your sticks and make sure that they're equally sounding so it's not right hand heavy. You could also do it with left hand lead if you prefer playing with your left hand. Those two things are really good for the rhythmic side of this piece. The other thing this piece is really asking you to do is to play the same roll at a bunch of different dynamic levels and a bunch of times in a row. To get my roll sounding really good for this piece, I was trying to play them with 16th notes, and we're usually taught like 16th notes are the right pulse. But for this one, the 16th note pulse or roll background for me was too open or wide. It was too grainy. So it wasn't quite fast enough. So I played all the rolls with a 16th note triplet background instead. And that increased my roll density by one more stroke, which seems a little adjustment, but it increased the density to the point where I felt like it actually sounded like a snare drum roll that was nice and dense. So between the eighth note rhythmic pulse and keeping your rolls nice and dense and nice and consistent throughout, those are the things you want to be looking out for as you're preparing this piece.